Welcome to Barca News. It is September 10th, 2025. And Barcelona have received the final approval for the match against Valencia. Also, we're going to talk about another delay at the Spotify Camp Nou. And finally, we're going to talk about the consequences of those delays. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. This is the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but also where I get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting a discussion going live. This is why podcast days, well, they're my favorite days. For those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, so we'll be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline, in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to Goal Kit, Skip Bag, or Fanatics. If you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description. You click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. All right, let's begin with the news. And of course, today's news, well, it starts with what we've been talking about a lot, which is the stadium. What stadium is Barcelona going to be playing at? What's going on with the Camp Nou, etc., etc. And well, ladies and gentlemen, as you know by now, because I announced it in yesterday's video, Barcelona will be playing at the Estadi Johan Cruyff. La Liga had given Barcelona a deadline until yesterday, Tuesday, to announce which stadium they're going to be playing at. And since Barcelona were not able to get the license to play at the Camp Nou, well, they decided and announced officially that they are going to play this weekend at the Estadi Johan Cruyff, which is where the Barca Femení and the Barca Athletic teams play. Now, let's look at this video because this video was from today. And I'll make this bigger. Hold on. Here we go. Let's make sure we take off the sound. This is the Estadi Johan Cruyff. As you can see, there's some random people here. They're pointing at stuff. Look, this is a seat. Cool. This is the ceiling. Awesome. That's the floor. Dope. Never seen a floor before. And then let's look at the other video. Same thing. People arriving at the Estadi Johan Cruyff. And you might say, Mo, why are you showing us this? Why do we care about random people arriving at the Johan Cruyff and random people walking around the Johan Cruyff pointing at things? Well, these are inspectors from La Liga. Now, when Barcelona got the sense that they weren't going to be making it on time for the Camp Nou, they, of course, reached out to La Liga and said, hey, La Liga, is it cool if we play at the Estadi Johan Cruyff? La Liga sent inspectors. They looked around. They're like, okay, the capacity of the stadium is not enough. However, we will make the exception since obviously this is out of your control. You know, we don't have a stadium. The Camp Nou is not ready. The backup stadium, which is the Olympic Stadium at Montjuic, was also not going to be available because there's a concert 2 days before. So with the Camp Nou and Montjuic not being available, La Liga said, okay, we're going to do an exception. We'll let you play at the Estadi Johan Cruyff, even though it's a smaller capacity than what La Liga requires. However, you do have to make some changes. You have to install more VAR cameras. You have to install the semi-automatic offside technology. And you have to install fiber optic system so the transmission of the match or the airing of the match on TV, the broadcasting of the match can be reliable. So Barcelona got to work. They added the VAR cameras. They added the offside system, semi-automatic offside system, and the fiber optic system as well. And today, that's what you saw were La Liga inspectors going back to the Estadi Johan Cruyff to make sure that everything was installed, that everything is up to La Liga's requirements. And today, Barcelona officially received the final approval from La Liga to play at the Johan Cruyff is ready, is approved. Barcelona have announced that they will be playing there, and that's exactly what's going to happen on September 14th as they face off against Valencia. And as you know, Estadi Johan Cruyff only can seat 6,000 people. Barcelona will only offer these tickets to socios who have season tickets because, they have season tickets. They have to be prioritized. But even then, a lot of socios with season tickets are not going to be able to go because I think there's 16,000 of them. The stadium only seats 6,000, which, by the way, 290 of those tickets have been allotted to Valencia. Because as you know, every match you have to allot a certain amount for the visiting team. You give it to the visiting club. That club is in charge of selling it to their fans. But it's usually a few thousand. But of course, given the small capacity of the Estadi Johan Cruyff, Valencia will get 290 tickets. Now that Estadi Johan Cruyff has been approved for sure and will be playing at it for sure, once that match takes place against Valencia on September 14th, on Sunday, the Estadi Johan Cruyff will be making history. How? It's going to become the stadium with the lowest capacity to host a La Liga match during this century. Last century doesn't count because, of course, last century, if you're talking about early 1900s, all stadiums were that small because, well, that was just how things worked. And then football became more popular. Stadiums grew, etc. Population grew. But for this century, once that match takes place, the Estadi Johan Cruyff will become the stadium with the smallest capacity to host a La Liga match. Now, the Alfredo Di Stefano, when the that Sardine stadium, what is it called? The Santiago Bernabeu. When the Santiago Bernabeu was getting remodeled, Real Madrid did move to their reserve team stadium, like the equivalent of the Estadi Johan Cruyff, which is the Alfredo Di Stefano, which only can seat 5,700 people, so less than the Johan Cruyff. Johan Cruyff can seat 6,000. However, that was during COVID, and there were no crowds. So that's why that doesn't count, because it was zero anyway. Doesn't matter what stadium you were playing at. Before this Valencia match, the record for the smallest stadium to host a La Liga match was previously held by Eibar, where in the 2014-2015 season, they debuted it in First Division, and their home stadium, Ipurua, only seated 6,267 people. So that's 267 more seats that the Estadi Johan Cruyff. So that record will be broken by Barcelona. And right now, currently, the smallest stadium in La Liga is Getafe's Coliseum, which can only seat 11,000 people because of the renovations, because some parts of the stadium are not open to the public. So on September 14th, well, we'll have a new record. Smallest stadium to host a La Liga match. I guess that's something. Anyways, let's get back to let's start with the comment section since we haven't even started. But let's start with the comment section, and then we are going to talk about the possible return date for the Camp Nou, now that we know for sure that it's not going to happen this weekend on, of course, against the Valencia match. But let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about the other bits of news. It's starting with Prof. Comedy, who says, hello, Mo, Justice Boya from the Gambia. How far with the suit of Tebas by Miguel Galan? Well, the complaint was just brought forward. So I don't know, another 2 years, something like that. Remember, the wheels of justice move very slow. Let me give you an example of how things work here in the U.S. Of course, in Spain, it's a little bit different, especially since this is an administrative court, a sports court. It probably moves faster. But let me just give you an example of how long it takes for a lawsuit to go through. You file a complaint, right? Then, once your complaint is filed, you have to serve it. That means you have to hire a process server, someone to take that complaint and hand it over to the defendant in person. That can take up to 6 months just for the complaint to be handed to someone. Okay? Up to 6 months. And nothing has happened. You're just waiting for the complaint to be handed over. Most of the time, in my cases, they take about a month and a half, but it could take up to 6 months. Once the defendant receives the complaint, they have 30 days to respond. And a lot of times they ask for extensions, 60, 90-day extensions. And usually you just grant them. You're like, all right, fine. They filed an answer. Then a discovery phase begins. This is when you exchange documents. Discovery phase can take up to 2, maybe even 3 years, depending on how much evidence there is, how many documents you need to exchange, how many people you need to depose. And that goes for like party witnesses, meaning the people who are involved in the lawsuit being sued and suing. And there's non-party witnesses. These are people who are not involved in the lawsuit but know something about what's going on. So there's, if you were injured, you have to go to medical exam. Anyways, discovery phase alone can take 2 to 3 years. And then finally, and then there's, of course, motion practice. There's fights about things. And then once the discovery phase closes, then you can move forward to the trial part, which that can take another year or 2 just to schedule. So a case here in the U.S. can take up to 6, 7 years from the moment you file the complaint until the moment you actually go in front of a jury. So if you're asking about... Now, of course, this is Spain, not the U.S., and it's an administrative court. Administrative courts move a lot faster because they have fewer cases. But yeah, don't expect any news pretty soon. I mean, we're talking about months here, maybe even years. Ahmad Khalil says, hey, Mo, how are you? What's your opinion on if the board extends Lewy for 1 more season, given the striker market and our finances? Last resort? Sure. But I mean, we're talking about last resort. Like, we've tried everything there is to try. We've tried to sign a young striker and it didn't work. We tried to bring Harry Kane. There's a lot of talks about Harry Kane is going to be entering the final year of his contract at Bayern, and Bayern are willing to sell him next summer because they're, they want to keep, what's his name? The guy they currently have on loan. Something Jackson? I forgot. Anyways, so Barcelona would kind of bring Kane for 2 or 3 seasons, kind of like a short-term solution. Again, if they can't sign who they want to sign. If that doesn't work also, you can't sign who you want to sign, you can't bring Kane, maybe try someone from the academy plus Ferran, or maybe Rashford works out, so maybe it's Rashford plus someone from the academy. If that still doesn't work out, then maybe we do Lewy. But we're talking about like last resort, because Lewy, is he 37 already? If he is 37, he's going to be 38 next summer. And if I think he is 37, right? So he's going to be 38 next summer. You cannot have a 38-year-old starter if you try to compete for everything. Herjan says, hey, Mo, how are you? Do you think Juvenil B will get applauded by the first team next training? Do you think some of the players will instantly get promoted to Juvenil A or even the B team? I guess. I can't tell you what people are going to do. Fortunately, I am not an oracle. I cannot foresee the future. Yusuf says, hello, Mo. My name is Yusuf. I have seen a Barca Athletic player who goes by the name Sama Nomoko. Okay. And what did you think? Let me know. Let's see. Valentino says, hey, Mo, I'm late to the party and not sure what was the first discussed. There's a way we can find a petition to voice Hansi to start Kubarsi and Christensen. Hit the like button and Bisca Barca. Well, you only missed the news about the Johan Cruyff. Next, we're going to talk about the Camp Nou. Well, there's going to be 2 segments about the Camp Nou. And finally, we're going to talk about a new Racing sensation. We're going to even watch a video of him going off, just cooking on the field. But as far as petitions, I mean, you can start a petition. It doesn't mean Hansi Flick is going to listen to it. And he shouldn't listen to it. Coaches should choose their player based on what they see during practice and training, and, based on who they think deserves that spot, not based on what the fans think, and definitely not based on what petitions say. A coach should choose his players because he's watching them and he's thinking, oh, this guy is the best one for this position and that guy is the best one for that position, not because some fans think that those guys are the best for that position. So I guess you can start one, but I can't imagine Flick will be listening one, and again, he shouldn't. One more, and let's do the next bit of news. But Manuel Pop says, someone need to tell Laporta enough with the lies. Amen, my friend. Amen. And with that, let's get back to the news. Speaking of lies, and I say speaking of lies because, of course, by now we've heard a million return dates for the Camp Nou. So the question, of course, is when will Barcelona return to the Spotify Camp Nou? Now, forgetting all the previous deadlines that they told us, November, December, February, then April, then May, Joan Gamper in August. The goal after those 6 deadlines that were never met was the Valencia match. Now we know that the Valencia match is not going to happen. It's going to be played at the Estadi Johan Cruyff because Barcelona have not been able to get the license from the city. So, of course, the question is, well, when are we going to get to play at the Camp Nou? Now, what's there to be finished, right? We know that Barcelona are going to be returning in phases. There's phase 1A. I showed the pictures of the involved sections during yesterday's video. Phase 1A will host 27,000 people. That phase, or those sections included in that phase, they're ready. The construction company has finished them. Barcelona turned over the certificate of construction to the city. It's the certificate that says, hey, the construction is ready. The city sent inspectors, and they found a lot of damage that was caused by the rain, and they told Barcelona, you need to go back, fix that damage. Once it's fixed, you have to resubmit the certificate of construction. So now Barcelona are fixing that damage, the things that the city told them to fix. Once that's done, Barcelona will submit the certificate again. The city will again send inspectors, and if the stadium, or just the Section 1A, passes the inspection, then the city will issue Barcelona the license to go back to the Camp Nou, again, only for those 2 sections in the 1A phase, which can only host 27,000 people. As far as the Section 1B, of course, once that's ready, there's going to have to be another inspection for just those sections, and if they are ready, then the city will allow Barcelona to use that, and then finally the last section, same thing. But right now, Section 1A, complete. Barcelona are working on fixing all the stuff that the city pointed out. Once that's done, they'll resubmit the certificate of that everything is done. The city will send new inspectors. So what does that mean for Barcelona? When can we go back since the Valencia match is not happening? Now, let's look at the schedule of the first team because reports are stating that we could be back by a certain match, and I'm going to tell you what it is. But first, let's look at the schedule of the first team. We have the Valencia match, which of course we know is going to be at the Estadi Johan Cruyff. This is officially announced. In fact, you can already get tickets, but again, they're prioritizing. I'm very curious. Basic not available. Okay, that's priority for the club Sochis. Let's see the VIP, by the way. This is just pure curiosity. I just want to see what the VIP seats are going for. Mamma mia. $1,500. Wow. That is insane. And not dollars, sorry, euros. So in dollars, that's probably like $1,600. Honor zone, from 900. This is not even 900, from 900. That means the cheapest one is 900 euros or $1,000. And here, the cheapest one is 1,500 euros. So this is probably even more expensive. That is crazy. That is crazy. But anyways, that's not what I wanted to show you guys. I got distracted. But okay, we have the Valencia match. That's a home match that will be played at the Estadi Johan Cruyff. We know that for sure. Here's the second match, Barcelona-Getafe. That's also a home match, and Barcelona are ruling out the Getafe match as well. That means that we're going to have to play 2 matches at the Estadi Johan Cruyff, Valencia and Getafe. And the reports are now saying that Barcelona could be back for the Real Sociedad match. So Valencia and Getafe for sure at the Estadi Johan Cruyff. The new goal now is Barcelona versus Real Sociedad, which is on September 28th. Now, what's the following match after that? A few days later, Barcelona versus PSG. So Barcelona, if they return by the Real Sociedad, that could be a great test to see how the Camp Nou is doing, because of course a few days later, PSG in the Champions League. And remember, for the PSG match, Barcelona have to be back not only for phase 1A, but also phase 1B, which can seat 45,000 people. That's what UEFA have told the club. So by October 1st, phase 1A and 1B need to be finalized if we plan to play against PSG at the Camp Nou. But forget about PSG. The goal right now, again, to return to the Camp Nou is against Real Sociedad on September 28th. Valencia and Getafe will both be played at the Estadi Johan Cruyff. Now, we do have some official statements from the club which don't directly confirm what I just told you, but almost do. And these come from Elena Fort, one of the vice presidents of Barcelona, who's actually in charge of this Spy Barca project, which of course includes the renovation of the Camp Nou. And this is what Elena Fort had to say. We are working to return as soon as possible. For weeks now, the intensification of this final part, sub-phase A, has been intense. Wow, the intensification has been intense. Who would have known? We are working day and night. I want to thank everyone at Spy Barca, both internal and external. It is clear that these licenses have very complex deadlines and regulations. They're not complex. You just got to finish what you start. There's not much to it. Every business, every commercial building in a city goes through this. We have to finish adjusting them, and we are in the final stages. That is where we will adjust the return. I can't guarantee that we will be at the Camp Nou against Getafe. So she's already saying you can't guarantee against Getafe. As I told you, reports are saying now that Barcelona have ruled out Getafe. The check that the city council must do is not starting from scratch. We are working side by side with the council and its technicians. I cannot guarantee any return date. So they're not guaranteeing any dates. We will wait for events when we have absolute certainty. Thank God. Let's remember that we are talking about a first phase, the first, the second tier, which is not seen from the outside. Personally, all of us who were able to access shed a tear. So, Elena Fort saying we cannot guarantee going back by Getafe, which is the next match after Valencia, and saying she cannot guarantee any dates, period. It looks like the board has finally learned its lesson after, 7 lies, right? November, December, February, April, May, August, September 14th against Valencia. So yeah, 7 lies. After 7 lies, they finally learned their lesson, and they said, hey, we actually can't guarantee any. Thank God. That should have been the message from day one. Should have been, look, it's a complex project. It's going to take time. There's going to be delays. We'll let you know when it's ready. And by that, I mean when you actually have the license from the city in hand. That's what Barcelona should have done. Finished the construction, submitted everything, gone through the inspections. If there was things to fix, fixed them, gone through as many inspections and as many fixing that need to be done. And once the city said, okay, you're good, you're ready, here's your license, you can reopen today, that's what Barcelona should have said. Okay, this is when we're returning. But instead, they gave us 7 different lies, and now finally they're learning their lesson. Now, you say, Mo, okay, Elena Fort is not guaranteeing anything. So how do you know, or why do you say that there's a chance we go back by Real Sociedad? And this is why. Because Barcelona have already started inviting VIP guests for the Real Sociedad or the Girona match, which again means Getafe is completely ruled out. Starting with, you might have seen this guy, Hasbullah. I think that's his name. He's a Russian influencer. He became very popular because he constantly hangs out in the UFC circles. He's always seen with Khabib. He's even seen with Dana White. It is not a child, by the way. This is a man. He just has dwarfism. So I'm sure Lamine Yamal will be very happy to see him in the stands. It's a terrible joke. But anyways, Hasbullah posted on his Instagram the letter that you see on the left. It's an official letter from FC Barcelona inviting him to the Spotify Camp Nou to attend the match against either Real Sociedad on September 28th or Girona on October the 19th, because there is a FIFA international break. So, in other words, what we know for sure is that obviously Valencia is ruled out because we already have official confirmation that it's going to be played at Estadi Johan Cruyff. And also Getafe. Even though Elena Fort has not ruled out Getafe officially, this letter tells you that Getafe is ruled out because they're inviting this guy to the opening of the Camp Nou against Real Sociedad or Girona. If Getafe was a possibility, it would have been Getafe or Real Sociedad. But instead, they're saying Real Sociedad or Girona, which means Getafe for sure ruled out. So September 14th, Estadi Johan Cruyff Valencia. September 21st, it looks like it's also going to be Estadi Johan Cruyff against Getafe. And then with the possibility of returning to the Camp Nou on September 28th against Real Sociedad. Now, Hasbullah is not the only guy that has been invited, and he's not the only VIP has been invited for those dates. Also, there's another influencer, Kurban Amoraslanov. I think that's how you say it. I hope that's how you say it. He's another influencer. And then MMA fighter Ayub Gimbatov. All three of them have been invited for those dates. So, no Valencia, no Getafe, possibly Real Sociedad or Girona. And with that, let's get back to the comment section. And then we are going to talk about some serious repercussions for the delays at the Spotify Camp Nou. And we have Shane, my man Shane, always incredibly generous with his donations, saying, "Sup, bro? First off, I apologize for missing Monday. I was busy being irresponsible, drunk off my ass, throwing up. Oh no! And I was passed out by the time you came on. Second, I guess we'll see Barca play like we're in League 2 on Sunday. Yeah." Oh man, that is the worst. I'm a puker, by the way. I'm very jealous of people who can drink, and then eventually when they drink too much, they just pass out. I'm very jealous of those people because I don't. If I overdrink, I am going to puke. Like guaranteed. And not only that, I'm going to puke for an entire day. You know when you get food poisoning? And you're in bed and you throw up and then you lay back down and like 15-20 minutes later you throw up again and you lay back down and again and again and you end up throwing up the entire night for 10, 12, 14 times to the point where you can't even stand up and go to the bathroom. You just have a bucket that you're just holding and you're like, ugh. That's me when I overdrink. I don't pass out. I just puke 12, 14 times. And when I throw up, this is the worst. I know this is gross, but when I throw up, I throw up so violently, my body just goes, fuck you, that I always pop all the veins around my eyes or the capillaries. So I look crazy because I have all these red dots all around my eyes. I look like a freaking crackhead. But yeah, that's my experience. So I'm sorry you had to go through that, my friend. Throwing up from being drunk is not fun at all. But I hope you had fun before that. Whatever you were doing, hopefully you had fun. And yes, it's going to be very weird to see a team as big as Barcelona play. But of course, it's not unheard of. Teams go through remodeling of their stadiums all the time. Sometimes they have to move, playing at a different stadium. Sometimes they have to close parts of the stadium. Real Madrid, they played at the Di Stefano. But, of course, they were smarter about their stadium renovation, even though their stadium is an absolute dumpster with the renovation. The smart part was that they did it during COVID. So when they moved to the Di Stefano, there were no crowds allowed anyway. So they didn't lose any money. I mean, they lost money, but they were already going to lose that money because there were no crowds allowed. And I feel like Barca should have done that, right? Instead of playing at the Olympic Stadium or Estadi Johan Cruyff, we could have been, at the Johan Cruyff when there wasn't any crowds. But of course, we were going through bigger problems financially speaking. There was just no way that we could have focused on the stadium. I don't even know if any financial institution would have even approved the loan, given how bad Barcelona was back in 2020 and 2021. But it would have been nice to, do the remodeling during COVID. That way, we wouldn't have lost any extra money. We would have just lost the money that everybody else lost, which is from not having crowds. But anyways, I hope you feel better by now, my friend. Thank you for your generous donation. Thank you for supporting the channel. And then let me see. Damn it, I forgot how you say that word again. I keep forgetting. I know you told me it's people from Barbados. Please let me know, because last time I read it as Bajan, you said that's not how you say it. So I don't want to say it again because I don't want to, mispronounce it. But says, hey Mo, nice to see you. I saw comments online from Valencia fans demanding Barca to forfeit the match and award them the 3 points. Yeah, okay. Tell me your team is crap without telling me your team is crap. That's pretty much what my answer would be. These people are just afraid that from the inevitable, which is that Barcelona's gonna, destroy them. So yeah, let's just forfeit a match because we're renovating the stadium. Ooh, how dare us renovate the stadium? God, people are. I don't know if we are getting stupider as a whole, as a human race, or if we were always that stupid and just social media is bringing it to light. I don't know, but I feel like every time I open Twitter, my IQ just drops. Like the level of stupidity, and it's like nobody wants to think anymore. Nobody wants to reason. People just either want to talk crap or just insult each other. Right? That's it. But anyways, I guess I'm doing it too because I'm calling them idiots. But it is what it is again. Prof. Comedy says, Mo, will Barcelona be able to get back to the Rule 1-1 if we go back to the Camp Nou? Not immediately, no. It's going to take some time because, the stadium is not going to be at full capacity. It's got to be just 27,000, which is less than what we were making last season off Montjuic, and that wasn't enough. Then it goes back to 45, up to 45,000. That's still a little less than Montjuic. And then eventually, once we hit the 60,000, then we'll start making more money than last year. But that's not the whole season, right? That's probably maybe going to be half of the season. So no, not right away, no. Let's see. Mike says, stay safe out there, Mo. The U.S. and rest of the world are having crazy things happening. Yeah, for those of you who don't live in the U.S., today there was a crazy assassination. There's a guy named Charlie Kirk. He's got a right-wing media personality, built a huge following online, spreading right-wing propaganda. And his thing was he would go to colleges and debate people. Well, at least he claimed that he was debating people. It was mostly just, same tactics as politicians do, just deflecting and distracting and just saying buzzwords to get the crowd riled up. But anyways, very big right-wing personality. And today he was at a college in Utah doing one of those events where he goes to a university and he pretty much sits on a stage and students can line up and come up and debate him on things. That's how he became famous, right? And while he was doing that, someone took him out with a sniper. Crazy. Hit him right in the neck. Blood gushing everywhere. It was nuts. It was nuts. I mean, and the crazy part is that the debate that that he was having with the student at the time he got killed was literally about guns and mass shootings. They were talking about mass shootings, and the sniper took him out. It was crazy. It's crazy, and it highlights how polarized, unfortunately, the U.S. has become. Where people are willing to kill each other for thinking differently from each other, right? And it's not the first time, right? Last month, a congresswoman from state Congress in Minnesota, Democrat, she got killed in her house, her and her husband. It's crazy things are happening. Hergen says, oh yeah, between Charlie Kirk and the woman who got stabbed in the bus, what has happened to this world, man? Unfortunately, humans are violent creatures. We always have been, and that has never changed. That's why I will always say animals will always be better than humans. We might be more intelligent. We might have formed civilizations and built technologies, but animals kill to eat, while humans kill for evil. It's sad. It's sad. But anyways, I don't want to depress you guys anymore. Well, maybe I might continue to depress you because now we have to talk about the Camp Nou again. But at least it's not about deaths. So let's talk about the Camp Nou because we got to talk about the consequences of the delays and why the board and John Laporta are trying to rush this now. As you can see, like, they're really, really rushing the return. It's supposed to be the entire two rings. Then they negotiated, no, let's do it by phases, 27,000 people. And now they're just like trying to rush it as fast as possible because there are consequences to this delay. Now, of course, the most obvious one is the money. You're losing money. For as long as you're not the Camp Nou, you are losing money. You can even when we were at Montjuic, even though it had more capacity than the 1A phase. The 1A phase is only 27,000. Montjuic has a near capacity of 50,000. It's actually 55, but a lot of seats were blocked because they had a terrible view, terrible angles, because it's not really a football stadium. It's an Olympic stadium for track and field and stuff. But even though I think the maximum I saw was like 50,000 or 49,000. But anyways, even though Montjuic had more capacity than what the Camp Nou will have at Phase 1A, there was still a lot of people who didn't want to go up there, especially those season ticket holders. And Barcelona saw season ticket holders drop from, I think it was near 30,000 to almost 16,000, right? Plus, Camp Nou has the store, the museum, and those are things that usually generate even more money during match days because people are already there. So they're like, oh, I'm already at the stadium spending, might as well stop by at the store, might as well stop at the museum. So, of course, not only are we losing money from not playing at the Camp Nou, but there are other repercussions, and those are the ones I want to talk about because the money one obviously is very obvious. It started with, of course, Spotify. As you know, Spotify is Barcelona's main sponsor. Not only are they on all the kits, training kits, official match day kits, but the stadium has been named after them, right? They have naming rights, the Spotify Camp Nou. Now, if in the contract it's stipulated that if the stadium is not ready, fully ready, by the way, not phase 1A or 1B or 1C, fully ready, all rings built, full capacity, 105,000 people. If the stadium is not fully ready by July 1st, 2028, Spotify can unilaterally cancel the contract. Unilaterally, no questions asked. We're done. We're out. We're not paying you a single dime. So this, of course, is huge because, well, Spotify is a big source of revenue for the club. Also, the agreement to pay for the naming rights, it's 20 million per season that Spotify are paying Barcelona. At least that's what the reports say for the naming rights. While Barcelona are not the Camp Nou, that goes back down to 5 million. So that's another reason why Barcelona need to get back to the Camp Nou, so Spotify can't stop paying more, which makes sense. Why would I name a stadium that's not even being used? Why would I pay to put my name on a stadium that's not even being used? Right? But that's not it. Not only does this affect our agreement with Spotify, being able to go back to the Camp Nou, but of course, it affects also the agreements, the funding or the loan agreements that we have with the major financial institutions, more specifically Goldman Sachs, because they are the ones who have let us borrow $1.2 billion to renovate the Camp Nou and the surrounding areas. Now, the interests on those loans are gonna kick in pretty soon. And Barcelona need the Camp Nou to be open and generating money because the interest on those loans and the loans themselves are gonna be paid back by the revenue that the Camp Nou generates. So the Camp Nou is gonna generate money. Out of that money, some of it we're gonna take out, pay off the loans and the interest, and the rest Barcelona would keep. And if the Camp Nou is not open, is not generating money, the interest on these loans is going to have to come out directly from Barcelona's pockets, from their budget, which is already stretched thin. So Barcelona need the Camp Nou to reopen, start making money, and use that money to pay off the interest and the loans that they took out in order to renovate the Camp Nou. So these are two very serious repercussions that can affect Barcelona's revenue, aside from the fact, of course, that we're already losing money because we're not playing at the Camp Nou And while playing at the Estadi Johan Cruyff, forget about it. In the Joan Gamper Trophy match, Barcelona made 370,000 as opposed to the 2.8 million they were making per match at Montjuic, not even at the Camp Nou. So right now, it's very much needed to go back to the Camp Nou, not just because it's our home stadium, not because it's, we need to be at a big, amazing stadium, but because right now Barcelona are bleeding money, and we need to stop the bleeding. We need to start making money, and that is why it's very important to return to our home. All right, let's get back to the comment section, and then we are going to talk about good news. Okay? Good news. The last segment is good news. So don't go too far, because I know I already depressed you guys with all this bad news, but there is good news afterwards. Let's see. Shin says, if you haven't seen it, check out the movie Idiocracy. It's not just a movie, it's a damn prophecy. It's actually quite trippy when you relate. I've never seen it, but I have heard a lot of people talk about it. Idiocracy. For people who don't know, it kind of like talks about how the world just eventually gets dumber and dumber and stupider. I think, correct me here, Shin, but it's because usually dumber people are the ones who procreate the most, which it is true, by the way. There is data that supports that. Usually, like, more successful people, let's put it that way, people who maybe they got good education or good training and good jobs and good careers, and they're successful. They usually have smaller families. Meanwhile, people who are not, they're the ones who are having a lot of kids. And I think, and then correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't think I've seen this movie. I haven't seen this movie. And eventually, with the unsuccessful people, let's put it that way, having more and more kids than the successful ones, eventually the world will just be full with dumb people, right? Is that what the movie's about? But yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and I have heard a lot of people say that movie is literally becoming the reality. So I do have to watch it, even though I guess if we are in that stage, maybe I don't need to watch it. Maybe I just need to watch the news and go on social media, and I'm already watching it. But anyways, thank you for your donation, by the way. Again, and Ronaldo says, random hypothetical. If Flick's contract expires at the end of the season and he's set on leaving, what current coaches pique your interest to try to hire? That's a really good question. That is a really good question. And I have to think about this because, what coaches would pique my interest if Flick leaves? Oof. You know what? I want to see how Giuliano Belletti does with Barca Athletic, because he came with very little experience and he absolutely killed it with a Juvenil A. Transformed how they played, total Barca DNA, and went on to win a treble with a Juvenil A, right? The youth champions, the league group that they were in, and the youth Copa del Rey. And that led him to get promoted to Barca Athletic. So I would love to see how he does with Barca Athletic, because if he ends up killing it with Barca Athletic and gets them promoted back to third division, maybe the first team is in the cards. And plus it's in-house talent. Former Barcelona player, starts his career in academy, kind of like Pep, right? Except Belletti was a little more successful than Pep when he was a player. He actually scored the goal that won us our second Champions League, right? Second, yeah. Another one that I'm interested to see how his career develops is Cesc Fabregas, because he's actually doing not too shabby with Como, got him promoted to first division. Then on his first season there, got him promoted to first division. Last season, he ended up, I think, top 10, if I'm not mistaken. And now that he's getting more players and starting to build a squad, I would be interested to see how he does for the rest of the season. And who knows, maybe we have another good coach in the making. But that's, I guess, the options that I'm thinking about. I don't know if that's just my mind being too Barca focused. That the only two options I can think of are Barca related. But I wish Xabi would have came to Barca Athletic. I really do. I think that jump from Qatar to first team was just a horrible decision. I mean, the club actually, Laporta wanted him to do that, but Xabi insisted first team or nothing. And I think that was a huge mistake because we'll never know. Who knows? Maybe Xabi in Barca, or maybe not even Barca Athletic, maybe Juvenila and then Barca Athletic. Who knows? Maybe going step by step, that would have built Xabi into a much better coach versus going from freaking Qatar, which is might as well be fifth division in La Liga in Spain, all the way to freaking not only first division, such a huge jump, but then Barca in first division. If you're gonna make that huge jump from Qatar to freaking first division, maybe go coach Getafe or I don't know, Eibar or some lower table team. But you don't go from Qatar to first division and on top of that, Barca first division, right? So I wish Xavi would have maybe done that, and who knows, maybe he would have ended up being a much better coach. But instead, he flew too close to the sun. Paul Diaz says, "Hey man, did you get Barca's third kit? I know I did, and I love it. No, I only have the away kit. I'm not a huge fan of the third kit, but I do prefer it over the home kit. So if I had to get another freaking another kit, it would definitely be the third kit over the home kit. I just do not like the home kit. I do not like it at all." Paul Diaz says, "I think so. Hasbullah, Magomedov got invited to the Barca and Real Sociedad." Yes, we already talked about that. McBarca says, "Bartomeu fucked this project bad. We look like fools. Bartomeu ruined our finances. And we could have rebuilt during COVID. If there is anyone to blame for why we're in this situation, is Bartomeu." Well, it's not just Bartomeu. It's the Sochis that reelected him. And why did they reelect him? Well, because the team had just won a treble. Right? And yes, Bartomeu is at fault for most of the things we're going through. But there's also been mismanagement on Laporta's behalf. Obviously, nothing compared to Bartomeu, but not everything can be traced back to him. Some things Laporta has mishandled as well. Started with all the lies. Nike deal. Oh, it's going to be done in June. Oh, end of June. No, beginning of July. No, mid-July. No, end of July. No, in August. It gets signed in October. Oh, Nike deal is going to get us to the 1-1. Nike deal is going to get us to the 1-1. It didn't get us to the 1-1. And then, oh, well, it's because we don't want to be at the 1-1. This is where we want to be at. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I could be a billionaire, but I'd rather not be. It's not fun to be a billionaire. Who wants a private jet and a yacht and cars and financial freedom? It's more fun to be broke, right? Same thing with the stadium, right? It's November. No, it's February. No, it's April. No, it's December. I forgot December too. It's May. It's August. Now it's September. Maybe end of September. Maybe even October. None of that is Bartomeu's fault. Now, you might say, well, the finances, but not really, because we got the financing for the stadium, so that's not being delayed. The financing, we got it. But who chose Limac? The Turkish company. A company with zero experience in building stadiums. Zero. They've never done this. They've never managed a construction project this big. Who chose them? It was not Bartomeu. It was Laporta. So you might be like, well, it's not Laporta's fault, the delays. No, but it is his fault that he chose that company, even though they had zero experience building these kind of projects. So again, yes, did Bartomeu fuck up our club? 100%, a million times percent. But there's also some things that Laporta has done that are not Bartomeu's fault. And Edward says, "Mo, what's up? I watch just about all the construction blogs, and I can honestly say the workers are not sleeping on the job at night, and they are going like bats out of hell. They might just make it." I hope so, my friend. I hope so. We really need to get back to the Camp Nou. And one last comment, but says Mo, it's pronounced Bejan. Okay, good. Just a Bejan girl there. I'm going to remember that. I know I said that last time and I forgot, but I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper. Do I even have pens? Hold on. pens. Right here, a pen right here. He's a piece of paper. What the hell is this piece of paper? Oh, it's notifying me that my data was breached in a hack and that I should sign up for credit monitoring. Lovely. And on here, I'm gonna write it. It said Bay John. Bam, right there. See, Bay, there you go. See, Bay John. And right here, credit monitoring services. Lovely. All right, let's do the last bit of news because as promised, I told you the last bit of news is going to be good news. And I did not lie because guess what? Let me take my glasses off since I don't need them. The Barcelona youth team just won the Under 18 Club World Cup today, a few hours ago. I think like an hour ago or 2 hours ago. Which, by the way, I didn't even know this tournament was going on, but I was, doing some research, getting ready for the podcast, and I came across this cool news. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Barcelona youth team has won the Under 18 Club World Cup. They reached the final and they played against Santander. Sorry, not Santander. Racing, because I'm thinking Racing de Santander, which is a completely different team. That's where Pablo Torre came from. But no, this is Racing, the Argentinian team, Racing. So it was Barcelona's under 18 versus Racing's under 18 in the final of the Club World Cup, which I think Real Madrid were eliminated in the semifinal, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but it's irrelevant because our boys, ladies and gentlemen, have won. So they are under 18 Club World Cup champions. It was 1-0. Just from reading the report, I didn't actually watch the match or the highlights, but reading the report, it said it looks like Racing had the most dangerous opportunities, but they weren't able to capitalize. The Barca boys, they were having a little bit of hard time first breaking down Racing's defense, but they continued to you create threats, and then eventually in the second half, his name is Artem Ryback. Never heard of him, but Artem Ryback scored Barcelona's goal, 1-0, and Barcelona youth team are the champions of the Under 18 Club World Cup. So congratulations to those young guys who just brought home another, or will be bringing home another trophy. Again, this happened about an hour ago. I'm sure they're still celebrating I think it was in Argentina where this was played. Now, this news I came across while I was actually looking up a Racing player. I knew that Barcelona were going to play against Racing. I just didn't know it was today. And while I was looking at this player who's made a lot of splash in this tournament, Eric Florentin, this is how I came across this news. So this is pretty cool news. Again, like I said, good news at the end since I already depressed you guys with all the other negative news. Now, what was the main topic that I wanted to discuss before coming across this really awesome news of our young team becoming Club World Cup champions is this guy, Eric Florentin, because he has made a lot of waves during this Under 18 Club World Cup. Now, Eric Florentin is 16 years old. He is a midfielder, left-footed midfielder, wears the number 10. As you can see in the picture, you can see the 10 on his short. And he made a lot of splashes or a lot of waves, because during this tournament, he was just absolutely cooking on the field. Now, I'm going to play you a video, if my keyboard cooperates, but I've got to play you a video of this guy cooking to show you why he has created such a buzz. Let's see. Gotta put on my glasses because I'm an old man. All right, here we go. I don't know why it is with these Macs, when you do a split screen, you can't type in one of the half of the screens. It's Stupid. Anyways, um, let's see. I'm gonna share this video with you. This one, we're gonna take the volume off. But this is him, of course, right here, number 10. This is during the Club World Cup, under 18 Club World Cup. And look at this guy. Weep. There goes a nutmeg. Little fake. Boop. Another nutmeg. And that's just like one of the many highlights that you can find out there of this youngster just absolutely cooking everybody. Even against Real Madrid, he was doing. I mean, this is against Real Madrid, but there are a lot more highlights. Look at that nutmeg, man. I would retire after that. Another one, and continues going. But this is just one of the many highlights, brief highlights of the player that you can find on social media because he's been absolutely cooking. And it's reported that when Barcelona saw this, they were like, wait a minute, let's watch this guy. So today, Barcelona scouts watched this kid against us, against Barcelona in the final to see, is this someone that maybe we could be interested in? Now, of course, this match just happened, just ended about an hour or two ago. So we don't have news about what these scout reports look like, but given all the waves that Eric Florentin has made during this tournament, Barcelona scouts were present at the final to watch him play against us. We'll see what news comes out of these reports, whether the scouts, thought, oh, yeah, this guy is great, or whether it was just like, oh, he's just having a good day, and that was it. Well, of course, we'll keep track of him, and of course, I will be here to tell you all the news. But let me know if you guys have ever seen him, if we have any Argentines here in the crowd, or if someone who pays attention to Argentinian football has ever heard of Eric Florentin. Let us know. Let us know in the chat section or in the comment section. Is this guy really that good, or was he just having a good day, or was he being lucky? Is it just a spoof, or is he actually that good? Again, if you know, let me know in the comment section. And with that, let's do the comment section. By the way, that's all the news for this podcast. I will be doing a video because there is a little bit more news that I want to cover. So stay tuned. I'll upload the video in the next hour or so. But let's do a few more comments. And then, of course, we'll end this so I can go and make more videos. McParsa says, that Camp Nou picture ain't helping. I'm looking at the Camp Nou and we're not even halfway. I think we're past the halfway mark. Let's see. Joshua says, Jurgen Klopp. Didn't Jurgen Klopp join Red Bull as a director of something? I thought he did. Or am I thinking of someone else? Oh my freaking God. I hate Max. Jurgen Klopp. Let me see. I'm pretty sure he joined Red Bull, didn't he? Boom. Where is he at? Where is he at? Where are you, Jurgen Klopp? Let's look at transfer market. Yeah, he's working for Red Bull, global sports director at RB Leipzig. So yes, he joined. He's kind of managing, because the Red Bull group, they have a lot of teams, and they're in the business of forming players and selling them, right? They're selling clubs, right? They develop players, so they sign them when they're either very young or when no one has heard of them. They develop them into household names, and then they sell them for profit. So Jurgen Klopp is kind of like the one who's been hired to oversee that. I think, if I understand it correctly, that's his job. So I don't think he would be on the market at the end of the season. They are actually have partnered, the Red Bull Group, with Paris FC. That's not PSG. That's another Parisian club. So there used to be PSG and Paris FC who were in the league. But then Paris FC kind of like fell behind and they dropped in the divisions and they struggled. They were recently bought by the LVMH group. That's the group that owns a lot of luxury brands like Louis Vuitton, Tag Heuer, the watch. But they own a lot of, I think Prada too. They own a lot of luxury brands. The owners of LVMH are are a Parisian family or French family, the richest family in France. But anyways, they bought Paris FC with the aim of getting them promoted through the division and making it back to the league. And they partner up with Red Bull, with the Red Bull group, since Red Bull have so much experience in developing young talent. They partner up with Red Bull because one of the goals of LVMH owning Paris FC is not just to get him back to League, but it's also to develop young talent in their own academy. And the Red Bull Group is part of that mission, and it's being ran by Jurgen Klopp. I know I just went off on a completely tangent, Paris FC history and PSG and who LVMH is, but it's always fun to say league. Just says Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique is with PSG. He's not going to leave PSG by the end of the season, so I don't think that would be an option either. Paul Diaz says, Mo, do you think it's true that Julian has spoken up about coming to Barca? Julian, it's no secret. This is not breaking news. Julian has made it very clear several times that he would love to come to Barca. Even back when he was at Man City, he always used to say, that he would love to come to Barca. Is it going to happen now? We don't have money to sign Julian Alvarez. I mean, Atletico Madrid just paid an arm and a leg for him a season ago. Not only are they not going to look to sell him, but even if they are forced to, because the player forces his way out, they're going to want an arm and a leg. Well, they bought him for an arm and a leg, so they're going to want 2 arms and a leg, because they're going to look not only to make back their money, but to make a little profit too. So it doesn't. A, it's not a secret. He's always made it clear that he likes Barca, and B, it doesn't matter, right? Greeks the Kid says, just getting involved in question about future coach after Flick, I would consider Klopp. So yeah, like I said, Klopp, he's with the Red Bull Group, so he definitely would not be available at the end of the season, since, that's what the question was at the end of the season, who would we hire? Fusini says, hey Mo, thanks for joining you today. I'm really happy to be here to discuss our darling club, and thanks for the good work, Visca Barca. Visca Barca, my friend, I'm happy you are here. And Shin says, cluppity clup. Sounds like you're still drunk, Shin. Are you sure you didn't sober up? You're still not sober up from Monday? Malaki says, do you think Rooney is going to play against Valencia? He can. He will finally be available for the Valencia match for the first time this season. Poor guy had to wait, till the 4th match of the season. But yes, he has been registered with Barca Athletic, and I think they call it a visa, which is what kind of like the permission to be able to play with the first team. All of it has been approved by La Liga, so he will be available for the match against Valencia. And yeah, I think there's a good chance, depending on the scoreline, because remember, Lamine played again both FIFA international break matches. So I think if the team starts out good, they score 2, 3, 4 goals, then I think it'll be a great chance to bring in Rooney and give Lamine some rest, since he did play both matches in the in the international break. And just a Bejan. Yeah, let's go. Laporta's mouth is his own worst enemy. He talks too much and he comes back to bite him. I think he should practice moving in silence. I agree 100%. And I think it's because Laporta, and this goes back even to his first presidency, he's a very charismatic politician, right? There are politicians who rely more on moving in silence and just let their work do the talking. Florentino Perez, for example. Have you ever heard Florentino Perez talk? It makes you want to go up to to the top of a 50-floor building and just jump off. I mean, the guy is the definition of boring. But he gets things done, right? So he lets his work talk for him. That's the kind of guy that Florentino is. Laporta is the total opposite, right? He's charismatic, he's outgoing, he's all about like giving these speeches and, riling up the crowd. He's that guy, right? That's his personality, and it works great for him, right? It's what gets him elected. That's why he's such a likable guy. But yeah, that ends up coming back to bite him in the butt, because in his attempt, or in his attempt to try to be charismatic or in his effort of being charismatic, he tells the people what they want to hear, and a lot of time ends up being lies because, of course, people want to hear we're gonna be back at the Camp Nou tomorrow, but if it's not possible tomorrow, then you shouldn't say it just because people want to hear it. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It works because it gets him elected. He's liked, he's loved, but yeah, a lot of time he comes back and bites him in the ass because you can't always tell the people what they want to hear. Anthony Kate B says, damn, missed most of the news. I have my final exam tomorrow for my MBBS, medicine and surgery. Wish me luck, Mo. Damn, that's awesome. That is huge. Good luck, even though I believe that you won't need it because you're going to crush it. You got to believe that you are ready. You got to trust in the work that you put in. So go out there tomorrow, kill it, crush it. You're ready. You can do it. So good luck, even though I don't think you need it. I guess we'll say break a leg, like they say in the arts world. Shin says, if any team can lure club back to the sideline, I believe with all my heart, it's my Barcelona. Maybe, but I imagine club is gonna want a lot of money because I know Red Bull are paying them a lot of money. That's the only thing. Street Fighter says, he oído que el París FC era el PSG antes del PSG. Street Fighter says that he's heard that Paris FC was PSG before it was PSG. I'm not sure about that. I'm not gonna. I think they did break up into like two different teams. They used to be just one team, and then back in like the 1900s, there was just one team, and then they broke off into two. Something like that. I read that too. I just cannot remember it, so I don't want to make up story here. But I think you are right. I think there was only one team, and then the government got involved, I think. And then they created the two teams, Paris FC and PSG. And Paris FC, something went wrong where the team just eventually just went on a downhill trajectory, just went to second and third, the fourth division, and was like up and down and never really back to first division. And the PSG, they got bought by the Qataris, so that, of course, brought in a huge influx of cash. And now Paris FC got bought by LVMH, so now they're trying to be the competition of PSG because now LVMH, their younger, I guess, the son of the dad or the grandfather, I don't know, the heir to the whole fortune wants to kind of diversify and go into football. It's, money problems, I guess. Flyboy says, why doesn't Barca invoke the contract provision for Limex to pay penalties for the delays? Isn't it 1 million per day or some other big number? Yes, we were told that supposedly for every day that the stadium was delayed, Limex would have to pay 1 million euros. Now, the original date to go back to the Camp Nou was November of last year. So we're coming up on almost a year. So technically, Limex would have to pay us a full like 300 million euros, right? Why doesn't Barca invoke it? Because either that clause doesn't exist, and this whole thing was a big lie. That this was just Laporta telling us, oh, look at me, I'm the greatest negotiator ever. I convinced the construction company that's going to handle a major construction project where it's guaranteed 100% there's going to be delays to agree to pay us 1 million per each delayed day, which I don't believe it, because no construction company will be stupid enough to agree to that, because major construction projects is guaranteed 100% there's going to be delays. So by agreeing to this, you're guaranteeing 100% that you're going to pay 1 million euros per day, right? So either that clause never existed, or if it does exist, they agreed to it but made it difficult for it to be enforced. How do you do that? Well, by saying, okay, 1 million per day for each day delayed, unless the delay is born out of out of the construction project itself, right? Something like that, where it's like, all right, the delay is caused because of the magnitude of the project. So then you're like, all right, well, I don't have to pay it, right? Because the delay is caused because this is a big project, and big projects have delays, right? So you can write it in a way where it becomes almost impossible to enforce, because unless your workers are like literally taking naps or not showing up to work every single day for months, it would be impossible to enforce. Now, why would you put that in? Again, for just bragging purposes. You know it's not going to be enforced, but you could get to say, hey, look, I'm such a great negotiator. I got them to agree to this, right? It's kind of like the variables in contract. You know, you hear, oh, we signed this player for 50 million fixed plus 30 variables. Ooh, we got him for a great price. It's 50 million. It's never 50 million. If you paid 50 plus 30 in variables, that means the guy's going to end up costing probably either the entire 80 or maybe 75. What are variables? Variables is just you agreeing to pay in quotes or installments. That's literally what it is. Because they make those variables so easy to achieve. Like if the guy farts, there goes $1 million. Oh, the guy tied his own shoes. That goes another $1 million. You know, it's like they make them so easy to achieve where the variables really is, it's not 50 plus 30. You bought the guy for 80, but you agreed to pay the other 30 over the next 3-4 years. So that clause could exist, but they probably wrote it in a way where it would be impossible to enforce, just so Laporta can say, look, I'm a great negotiator, right? Because no construction company building a project this big would be stupid enough to agree to this, because the company would go bankrupt. Can you imagine if they pay us $300 million for all those delays? They would go bankrupt. So yeah. Ron says, I think the coach to go for Flick is Nagelsmann. He is young, smart, and very inventive. Don't forget, before he was fired from Bayern, he had all wins and 0 goals conceded in the Champions League. Yeah, but Nagelsmann's been talking a lot of shit about Barca, so I don't know if I want someone like that at Barca. Prof. Comedy says, Bo, thank you so much for always keeping us up to date with the news of our beloved club. Guys, hit the like button to keep the channel growing. And as always, Biscal Barca. Biscal Barca, my friend. And yes, hit that like button. It's free. It takes a second. And it actually goes a long, long way. The like button is actually the most important thing you can do, because the more likes a video gets, the more the YouTube algorithm recommends the channel to people who've never seen it. Shin says, why the hell would a company with no experience whatsoever in stadium building / remodeling ever agree to such a ridiculous clause unless they're absolute morons? Like I said, either that clause doesn't exist, or if it does exist, it's written in a way where it would be impossible to enforce. You know? So yeah, that's probably why they're not doing it, because if that clause existed, it's written in a way where Barcelona and Limac were serious about having this clause enforced, why wouldn't you want to enforce it? 300 million, we would reach the 1-1 like this. We'd reach the 1-1, and we would go make a huge signing. Haaland, fuck it. Julian Alvarez, bring him. We can do whatever the hell we want. 300 million, man. That's a lot of money. But the fact that we're not getting it is because either it doesn't exist, or if it exists, it's written in a way that it could never be enforced. You know, and it's just a bragging thing. Like, oh, look, I'm the greatest negotiator ever. Yeah, okay. Anyways, that is all the news. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for your likes, your comments, your subscriptions, your generous donations. I'm looking at you, Shin. If you haven't hit the like button yet, make sure you do. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. And if you want to let me know, what do you think about all the news that I share with you? Drop a comment. I'll make sure to read it. We'll be posting another video in a little bit, so stay tuned to the channel. And of course, as always, Visca Barça.